What's up guys, MikeCoco back here bringing you guys a new video for Explore, this time for Ruins Area 8. This guide is going to primarily focus on clearing floor 8 and how you can do that without using more than one mythic hero. And this guide again will be using Michael, just like I've been using in the past guides for I think like all the past areas. So each boss in floor 8 has pretty much a different attack pattern, and that's why in floor 8 you actually need several different formations for each floor. So there's the T formation here. We also have the Michael drawing aggro formation. We have the sword main drawing aggro formation, and we have the cross formation here. And the difficulty is probably the bottleneck on this floor would be Frankenstein, because Frankenstein has a 2-turn dispel, and it removes any kind of buffs on your own team, which is kind of like the same skill as Remi in, I believe, floor 6, which is really annoying. This time it's 2 turns, I think, with Frankenstein, which makes it even more annoying. But once you get past 8-6, the hard part is 8-10, because the boss there hits extremely hard and it's pretty much a random attack pattern. Sometimes you'll be able to clear it really easily, sometimes it'll take you at least an hour to finish it. So that is somewhat dependent. However, I've been using this formation and it has gotten me past 8-10, so it may not work on the first time that I do this, because 8-10 is just extremely random, but hopefully everything goes smoothly. So in regards for 8-1, the boss hits in a column, and because it can only hit the front target, generally speaking, these heroes here won't be affected by the boss. That's why we have Michael at the front up here. The mobs will dispel any buffs on the aggroed character, which is going to be sword main. So there is going to be a 3x3 dispel centered around sword main, but that doesn't matter too much because the mobs don't hit that hard, unlike Abyssal Inferno. And in terms of initiative, it's pretty much like this. Zhao goes first because he has a Fury Steel Spear, which allows him to go first and act essentially as like the Grudge mythic skill. And because Prince Arthur follows behind very quickly, he's not going to use his skill, which means he's going to proc his sword, which will draw more aggro. Lucida then will not use her skill, and then we have the sword main and Michael using their skills, because by that time we'll have enough fury for both of them to use their skills. That's the general idea of the initiative. So 8-1, it's actually fairly easy. The first time I finished 8-1, I just used the random formation, and I didn't actually use sword main at all. Yeah, sword main. I didn't use him at all, which means that he's fairly unnecessary and you really don't even need him. The only thing is, because the mobs keep respawning on this floor, if you don't target, or if you clear these two mobs here, generally speaking, your Michael will not aggro the boss and will just clean up the sides. It's kind of annoying, especially if you're running a Dispel gem. But as long as you are able to maintain 2 mobs here, at least 1 mob here, Michael will focus on that mob, which will indirectly hit the boss anyway. But other than that, this floor is not too difficult. 8-1 is fairly simple. Pretty much all the floors up to 8-6 are fairly simple because the boss doesn't hit that hard. The only one that hits a little bit harder is, I think, the floor with Drake, and you just have to set up your formation differently because he hits in a column. So as you can see here, the mobs are dispelling, but they don't even hit that hard. Like, you can barely see the HP bar go down on these heroes here, and the boss is just constantly targeting Michael. So not a huge problem. I do have the demigod equipped to Lucida, I think, or actually I might have taken it off of her. I don't remember. She didn't actually activate the demigod skill that often, because by the time she turned into demigod, the floor was already cleared. So that's 8-1. Now 8-2 is a 3x3 because it's aerial, and if you guys have used her before, she hits in a 3x3 that is centered around the aggro hero. So the formation you're gonna want to use is probably gonna be, I want to say, this one, or this one. The reason being, if there's a 3x3 damage, it's going to be centered around one of the targets, and you want the other targets to avoid damage as much as possible. So having someone that draws aggro at the very end only allows one of your heroes to kind of get hit by the 3x3 aggro. There's also a 3x3 dispel centered around here, again, just like 8-1. So this is the formation you want to be running. Again, initiative is very similar. Ione is slightly higher, but in my experience, she's not really that useful because the spell often cancels out whatever cleanse she's applied anyway. So it doesn't matter too much. And another thing I want to mention is the specific placement of Michael here is extremely important. You don't want to have the mirror formation. The reason why is because if you have these heroes where Michael is, and Michael in the position of Lacida, Michael's way off the boss. Like he's off center, and it's very likely that he won't actually target the boss at all. He'll often just hit this column repeatedly, and that's not what you want, because in this case Michael's still going to be your primary damage dealer. And in this floor, I think I may have been wrong. It might not actually be a 3x3. It might just be an entire board clear. We'll see if Lacida dies here. I just don't remember. Because, okay, it's looking like it's actually a board area attack. So it's not actually a 3x3 centered around the aggro. So in that case, I would actually stick with the T formation. If Lacida dies here, then I'm probably right. Okay, so yeah, for this one, it's a T formation. Again, I actually haven't been remembering the formations that well, because when you get to a certain power level, the formation you run up to 8-6, it really doesn't matter. And this one simply just covers most of the options because you shield everyone, and you know, you have a cleanser, and then you have Mike. So ideally, if you're struggling, I would definitely choose a separate formation for each floor. But oftentimes, if you're strong enough, you can pretty much autopilot one formation up to a certain point, and then you have to switch it off. Yeah, so it's looking like it's actually the entire board hit, not just the 3x3 centered. And that means my notes are wrong. When I was working on this floor, because the boss hits so differently every floor, one thing you can do actually, and it's something I did, was do kind of like a test run and see how the boss attacks, and just notice which heroes are getting hit based on the enmity here, which indicates the aggro from the boss. And with that knowledge, then you set up the formation of your team. Okay, so again, it's not too difficult now because pretty much everyone's dead. The gear is nothing special in my opinion. Michael, obviously, he's maxed out in terms of attack at least. His defensive stats are not maxed out. And PA only has a level like 30 ring, and that's pretty much it. Everyone else has generally fairly accessible gear. It's just standard S2 rank 2. Okay, so 8-3, now hopefully my notes are right this time. 8-3 has a row dispel on the aggroed hero. And obviously with this formation it's not going to work because Swordmane is going to draw most of the aggro due to his skill. So for 8-3 you want to run this formation because Michael will draw the aggro on his own row. And it's only going to be him. So yeah, pretty much not much to say there. And on this one, you actually want to set your initiative of Ione to 10. I'm not sure if 70 makes a difference. I actually don't remember why I set her to 70. One thing I did notice was that at the time of this video, I actually already picked up Lacida, not Lacida, I already picked up Remi and DQK. And the thing I noticed with Remi is that she often fires off her skill because she's 200 Fury. And that means that she prevents other heroes from actually using her skill because Remi will go first. Now, because Party Ione has a 222 Fury, that extra 22 Fury actually forces the initiative slightly, if you get what I'm saying. Like, if you have 400 Fury, if you ran a Remi, it would cause, let's say, a 200 Fury user to use her skill, and then Remi would use her skill. However, if you're running Party Ione, she would actually use her normal attack, because after you use your skill, you only have 200 Fury left. So I actually think Party Ione is slightly better than Remi in terms of just forcing initiative, which is really important in Explore, at least, because it's all completely automatic. There's no manual mode, and so forcing that kind of initiative is actually fairly important. And I say this because I actually did incorporate Remi, or at least I tried to incorporate Remi into my formation, and it actually messed up the initiatives a little bit, which is to be expected, but I was too lazy to change it. And because Party Ione is definitely more accessible, at least in my opinion, compared to Remi, that's the reason why she's here and not Remi. So as you noticed there, it was just a dispel on that row. And 8-4 is Drake, and he's gonna hit in the column. So you want to avoid the T formation and the cross formation, because it's gonna always hit this entire column, which will expose a lot of heroes. You're going to instead want to run this formation, and boss is only going to hit Michael, and then the 3x3 from the mobs, well, there's not much of a choice there. You can't avoid it, but it does mean that only Michael's going to get hit. And I believe some of the mobs, and I can't narrow down which one because there are just way too many, but some of the mobs do actually have pushback, which means that if you kind of change the formation to have these guys back here and Michael up here, it actually can screw around with the formation, because Michael will get pushed all the way back, and it just does things that are not nice, in my opinion. Now, the position of Prince Arthur is actually really important, because Prince Arthur is acting as my cleanser at this point. So in cases like this, where Michael is stunned, I need him to actually, free himself. And I have a backup cleanser, which is Ione. So the worst case scenario is Ione uses her normal attack, which will dispel stuns on PA. PA hopefully then procs, and then it will free Michael. That's the general idea. So again, as you can see, all of that just happens instantly. There's not too big of a problem. And as you can see, I'm actually like pretty much capped at Fury all the time. So you can go ahead and bring in more damage dealers, or even just have set their damage dealer initiative higher. Lacita's still at 10, but as you can see, well, most of the time I have a lot of excess Fury, so it pretty much doesn't matter. Now, Drake does hit actually quite hard, and as you saw there, it broke Michael's shield, but it will take a few turns for that to actually happen, and by that time you should be able to clear the boss off. In the case of, if you're lacking damage, I would suggest probably changing a more consistent damage dealer, not like someone like Lacita, probably, I don't know, or even maybe try running a attack debuffer in that case, because the attack debuff will reduce Drake's damage by a lot. So 8-5, it's going to be Blood Pearl, and she hits in a 3x3 as well. She also has pushback on her skill, and it's not centered around a specific target. It can actually push back all the heroes, which is why we're going to run the T formation, because even if there is pushback, you can see in this formation nothing bad will happen. It will not screw around with the formation. And again, you're going to want to, pretty much just use this. Now, if you're noticing that you get silenced too much, you can sub in Ione. Where is she? You can sub in Ione for Lacita. But generally speaking, if you want to clear it faster, go with Lacita. So just give it a shot with Lacita or any other damage dealer. If you find yourself getting, controlled too hard, then probably stick with Ione instead. And I believe this formation is a little bit wonky because Swordmane should have had the shield up already. and previously, when I used Ione, I think the shield generally went up. So just something interesting to note. It's actually been a while since I've like actually analyzed floor 8, so I don't exactly remember everything about it, but the key points I think I've pretty much covered. Yeah, and the honestly the most difficult part is trying to get Michael to proc the column in Blood Pearl. I don't know, tiles, I guess. Because if he doesn't proc those or aggro those tiles, then you're missing out on a lot of damage. But otherwise, like as you can see here, it's actually pretty quick. It's faster than Drake clear actually. So just something interesting. Alright, so now we finally get to the, I guess, the gatekeeper. 8-6. And this is one point where I will consider switching off the sword from my DQK and put it onto sword main. So the reason why is because you're gonna want to have the shield maximized pretty much to the max, because Frank is always gonna be targeting the highest aggro hero, and that's gonna be your sword main. And so that means you want your shield to be as powerful as possible to tank as many hits as possible, because the electric dot that Frank hits with also gets stronger over time. So that's another reason why, you know, you want your shield to be extremely powerful. The formation is set up specifically like so because Michael and Swordman can tank fairly well, and that way, you know, if they do get hit, they're the only two that gets hit. They're the only two that are vulnerable. So that's why everyone else is pretty much safe from getting hit. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Swordmain and Michael will continuously just draw aggro. If you're lucky, Swordmain can actually proc his ring, which will dispel, like right there. And you're gonna need it because he actually, like in terms of tanking stats, I think Michael is definitely better, especially because he has a Phoenix invulnerability, which allows him to pretty much get a one-turn hit for free, so he can die for free. But otherwise, yeah, Swordmain is definitely, you do not want your Swordmain to die. The first time I cleared this floor, Swordmain died, and I pretty much got stuck at 8-10, which is the boss floor, because the boss hits extremely hard, and without a shield, you're pretty much dead. And with this formation, again, with the ability to dispel the electric dot with Michael, it's going to be extremely crucial. After a certain number of turns, as you saw right there, Michael or Swordmain does get pushed back, which means that your Lucida or whatever hero here is going to be exposed. So just beware. It will take a few tries to clear this floor because it pretty much just depends on whether or not your Swordmain procs his ring, which is kind of chanced, but without, and I say without Ella because at this point I still haven't gotten Ella's costume yet, but without Ella, there really isn't a better choice. Obviously, the best choice would be to place Michael somewhere else. Michael in Swordmain's position, and then have Ella cover the shield. And as you saw right there, again, Michael hits wrong column again. So it might indicate that we have to retry because we just lost like pretty much 700 million damage from missing that column, which is really annoying. But we gotta pretty much have to see, wait until. Now, holy crap, that was actually, how the hell did he hit that hard? That must have been a crit. But after I pulled up DQK, this formation gets a lot better actually, because it then becomes an entire melee formation, and DQK's 40% attack up actually boosts both Michael and Swordmain's shields by quite a bit, and also their damage. So obviously if you have DQK, run her. I personally ran DQK instead of Lucida once I got her, and it was really good because everything just gets better when you have melee attack up in a melee formation team. So here, might have an issue because Swordmane lost his shield, but we're only on turn 2, so I don't think Frank will hit that hard anyway. If it does come to the case where he hits hard, we'll just restart. Hopefully it doesn't hit too bad. Okay. Yeah, the electric dot at the last few turns is pretty much the factor on whether or not you die or not. Because honestly, the dot hits harder than the actual hit itself. So right now we're looking decent, and hopefully the dispel actually triggers this time. And of course, Swordmane triggers the boots crit up, which is probably the most useless active skill in my opinion. And yep, there Michael goes again, just targeting the wrong column. Hopefully Swordmane tanks this, or at least okay, he uses freaking defense. So obviously things aren't going to be perfect. And I really would not like this video to carry on so long, because 8-6 is already going to be long enough, and when you factor in the difficulty of 8-10, this video is going to be extremely long at that point. And I have no idea why did my Swordmane not use a skill. I have no idea why he procced or aggroed Michael. I'm just praying that Swordmane clears with this spell instead of, you know, proccing another useless active. Again with the crit. Oh my god. Alright, I'm gonna get ready to retreat. Yeah, I'm pretty sure Swordmane is dead. Oh, he's not dead. Okay, my bad. Alright, I won't put on quick battle. This floor is actually really frustrating. I really hate this floor. 8-6 and 8-10, definitely the most annoying floors out there. Even Remi here will not save you because Frank will just dispel the 2-turn cleanse. So honestly, like, these two floors are just infuriating. Not because they're like difficult, it's just that the boss is just, the skills the boss applies is just far too ridiculous in my opinion. So yeah, that's pretty much it. And I swear, if he procs another crit up on his stupid boots, I'm gonna be so mad. Okay, finally, the dispel actually procced. Okay, so in this case, we're looking like a pretty successful clear, I want to say. It shouldn't be too bad as long as Michael... Oh my god, of course he would target the wrong column. Ay. Okay, so he procs the spell again, which is pretty much what we needed. With all of our combined attacks, I'm not actually sure we can clear off the boss. Could be possible. Okay, very close. As long as Swordmane doesn't die, I think we're good. Okay, so the dispel procced. We got lucky. We also got sort of unlucky because look at that HP bar. But yeah, it's just gonna take a few tries. Even at this point, like without someone like DQK, it's gonna be fairly annoying. So that's pretty much it for 8-6. 8-7 all the way to 8-9, it's gonna be a little bit different, and I'm actually gonna take off the dispel weapon here, dispel gem. The reason why is because the double shield, and if you wanted to know about the power of the shield, it's a 6 million shield right now. The double shield is actually extremely useful for this formation, because what you're gonna aim for is this. You're gonna have Mike here, and the boss 8-7 all the way to 8-9. They only hit in a cross, row, or column, which means that Michael is gonna be the only aggro hero here, and the cross, row, or column will only hit Michael. And with the double shield, the only thing that actually hurts him is the electric dot, which usually is prevented by Ione and Prince Arthur. So yeah, that's pretty much it. You can wear down the boss to like, I think like usually turn 9 or 10. I think I've gone to that far before, which is something I don't usually recommend. I don't recommend, you know, like stalling out the battle, but in this case, the double shield provided by the dragon weapon is actually so powerful that you can actually last that long. And you know, when I tried this, I was surprised that it worked, and because it worked, I didn't bother, you know, adjusting anything, because, you know, if it works, there's no point trying to go against it and trying to find something new. And honestly, I feel like this is probably the best pattern, because the mobs here, they still provide a dispel, which means that even if you do run Sword Main or Ella or whatever, the shield can become dispelled, which means that if they hit in a row or a column, then that entire row or column is going to be exposed to the attack of the boss. So this actually works fairly decently. Now, of course, you could sub in someone like Ella and then just shield the extra heroes here, you know, put in Remi in this position to guarantee that Michael is always going to be free from stuns or whatever, and that's probably as optimal as you can get. But of course, you know, this video is not going to be about having all those, you know, mythic heroes or whatever. I do have them now, but I think it's still important to display that it still can be done without it. So at this point, Michael, I think, actually died somehow. I don't even know how. The dot must have killed him through his shield, and the cleanse must have been dispelled. Generally speaking, the cleanse is going to protect you, so the dot usually won't hurt. In this case, actually hitting, I'm not sure if it's just my Ione not using her skill or whatever, but yeah, it's getting kind of annoying. But the damage, Michael doesn't lose too much damage. I think he was hitting like 5.7 mil, now he's hitting 3.9, which is not a huge difference, to be honest. And yeah, you pretty much just have to wear the boss out at this point. And you do have to pray a little bit that the electric dot doesn't go through, or at least Michael procs his white ring. Sometimes that happens, which again, it just happens. You can't really fight against that. Ideally, again, with Remi, it would become more optimal, but this is pretty much how I would do it. And it works decently well, in my opinion. Most of the time, you just need to get Michael to proc his white ring, which shouldn't be too hard. He's at a level 5 white ring right now, which is not extremely high, but some things still will prevent the proc of the white ring. And I have no idea why Michael is targeting that column again. It's being useless, as usual. Alright, so we're looking a little bit better. And let's see. Alright, this turn might be a bit difficult because we might lose the shield. Okay, it didn't get dispelled. Last turn we actually lost the shield because it was dispelled. And yeah, pretty much just wearing it down, that's how I would do it. And I think this should be okay. One more turn at least. Yeah, it's pretty much just luck dependent on whether or not Michael gets his cleanse and shield dispelled. If he doesn't, he can pretty much last until turn 10 and it won't make a huge difference. And as I mentioned before, from 8-7 all the way to 8-9, you're going to be running the same formation. So it's pretty much autopilot. Honestly, I would say Ione is not that great because you could have the potential to get dispelled anyway, and so the 2-turn cleanse is going to be kind of useless. So you could definitely sub in with another damage dealer. And on floors with, okay, so for this floor we have Raphael instead, and because Raphael doesn't have a dot, this one's actually a lot easier than 8-6 and 8-9, because 8-6 and 9 they have electric dots or ice dots, and over time those will start hitting harder and harder. as the turns go on. But because Raphael doesn't have any kind of dot, you really don't have anything to worry about. The only thing you might have to worry about is the shield being dispelled, but you can just summon it up the next turn. So for Raphael, it's actually fairly simple. And as you can see, the mobs barely hit anything on S2 or R2 gear, so you pretty much just face tank. And I think next turn that's probably gonna do it. Yep. So as you can see, until turn 9, that's finally when the shield breaks. And then when it does actually break, we just, you know, reapply it. So not too difficult. Gabriel is a slightly more difficult. It's probably on the same level as Indra because there is an ice dot, and you know, dispellers and whatnot will dispel the 2-turn cleanse. But if you can avoid that, then it's again pretty much smooth sailing. And there, as you can see, Michael was silenced. It's not too bad if they do get silenced, because with the Dragon Spear, you can bring up the shield with your normal attack anyway. So on the first few turns at least, the Dragon Shield will protect you. But over at the next few turns, as the battle goes on, you're gonna need to have both shields up. You can't just tank it with simple Dragon Shield. And on this floor, pushback, well, I think pushback is actually found on pretty much every floor on floor 8, so it's pretty much random. It doesn't really matter on this floor because Gabe only hits in a column, so even if PA does get pushed back here, it's not a huge problem. And Michael goes off to target the wrong column once again. And I think, yeah, Michael's probably going to lose a shield that turn because of the dispel. Hopefully, okay, so I think he might die here because there's, I don't know who, because there's so many mobs that appear at once, I don't know who's actually providing the, or hitting with the dispel. But I think if we can tank this next one, okay, yeah, never mind. Maybe. It's possible. Yeah, I think he's dead. Oh, he's actually not dead. So if he hits, okay, yeah. So there you go. It's a pretty bad run because everyone was just like stunned for for so long. That's why you want to have PA at the center, and if he does get pushed back, it's not a huge problem, but you do lose that cleanse, and as you saw there, everybody was stunned, which does go to show like the slight inconsistencies, but that's gonna be there regardless of what you do, so you can't really fight that. So on to 8-10. I don't know if I will actually succeed in this, and I might not even bother putting this in the video because when I first cleared this without DQK, it just took way too long because the attack pattern of the boss Kraken is completely random. Sometimes he will use the poison dot, which doesn't hit that hard on the first few turns, and sometimes he'll hit with a tentacle swing and it'll completely destroy the shield. Even like a sword main with like a level 30 sword or whatever, the shield gets broken on like turn 2. So that just tells you how hard Kraken hits. And even with DQK, which has the 40% attack up, the shield still gets broken quite early. So what I would recommend for 8-10 is pretty much pray that the Kraken uses the poison dot for the first few turns instead of the tentacle swing. And if you don't get the shield up, you're in a bad position because, like, as you can see now, everyone's just dead. You know, instant death. So yeah, it is extremely frustrating for this floor. As I said in the beginning of the video, some weeks, you know, you'll clear it in like two minutes. Some weeks you'll spend an hour clearing it. It honestly, it just depends on luck, and yeah, that's pretty much it. There's really no strategy to this except shield, and more shield, because there really isn't anything better than that. You could also try stacking double shield, you know, running Ella and sword main, which I could see is a decent possibility. It's not too bad, but like here, like these two guys are stunned. They're our main damage dealers. Like, what are you gonna do? You know, you can't really like do much there. So yeah, you're pretty much stuck. And if he attacks with the tentacles, yeah, so you can see he's already starting to break the shield on turn 2. Turn 2, that's literally only been 2 turns, and the I think like the 8 million shield I think is already starting to break. So that's just telling you how hard he hits. So, and for some reason I don't know why Lucia using her skill so often. Swordmage should be attacking with the thing. I probably have to lower her initiative. But her initiative shouldn't even have changed. It's still at 10, I think. So I don't even know why she's using her skill so early. Completely blocking Swordmane. I'm gonna bring her down to like 5. And we'll try this again. I might just give this a few more tries, and then otherwise I'm just gonna completely skip this video because it's just not worth spending time, because it's just gonna extend the length of this video. I might, if I do try it, I might just like edit it in when I do get a successful run, but otherwise not really worth it. And this floor I would probably actually say go with the demigod, because you definitely will get to turn 3 and you will definitely need the attack debuff on Kraken because he hits so ridiculously hard. It's actually dumb in my opinion, but so yeah, Swordmane dies. You really, like, without a DQK or any sort of like melee buffer, you're gonna have a pretty bad time with this floor. It's not fun. And I've tried actually multiple ways to force the poison dot proc, you know, like just giving it more fury, stealing more fury, trying to force it to use the normal attack instead of, fury attack. Nothing has worked, so I don't even know what the attack pattern is to this boss, and it just makes no sense. And of course Michael hits the wrong column. And everyone's stunned, even better. But the idea here, if I was running DQK, I would just replace Lucida with DQK, because she's a better damage dealer than Lucida anyway, and with the melee attack up, the shield lasts a little bit longer. And you pretty much get the gist of it. Now, of course, the poison dot doesn't hit too hard on the first few turns, but if you're nearing like the last few turns, yes, the poison dot does hit incredibly hard again. So, and like you saw there, I don't know why Kraken hit was so weak. That was a tentacle hit, and it should have been a lot stronger, but So here, poison dot, it shouldn't hit too hard, I think. Yeah, so it wasn't that bad. A lot better than a tentacle hit, in my opinion. I think everybody else would agree, but okay, yeah, see, everyone just dies there. The ideal pattern would simply just be poison dot after poison dot after poison dot after poison dot. And if you're really close, that's honestly what I would suggest trying. Just like keep retrying, because that way you won't have to deal with floor 7 again. And honestly, floor 7 is so annoying that not having to deal with that is just such a blessing. So definitely go for it. And one thing you can try, and I think I mentioned this in one of my really old Explorer videos, like I think like floor 5 or something. If you notice that you can get him down to like 2 bars as you saw earlier, if you have a sub team that can kind of deal 2 bars of damage, which is, I mean, it's hard to ask for, because at that point is it really a sub team or not. But if you do have a team that can somehow rack up that much damage, do that and then sub in your main team to go for the kill. That way you can at least guarantee yourself to deal a little bit of damage in a mortal round. But there's honestly like not much you can do. Remi also doesn't help here, because the dispel would just dispel the cleanse, and you have no option there either. So yeah, kind of screwed there. We'll see how this goes. If it doesn't go that well, I might just try subbing a DQK and show you guys how it works with DQK, because it's probably a lot easier with DQK. The only issue is I don't have I only have one good sword at this point, and it's on my sword main, so yeah. And of course, MikeCoco targets the wrong column because of Prince Arthur attacking. And Swordmane has no shield. We're dead. If there was a way to make MikeCoco target the boss, just give me a way, please, because this is ridiculous. Okay, so Poison Dot, that's looking pretty good. I'd rather have Poison Dot on turn 1 than Tentacle. Alright, turn 2. Not looking that bad yet. And of course Michael hits the completely wrong column. Poison Dot again, okay. That's good. Even though Michael missed. And I hope he doesn't miss again, because that would be extremely sad. Alright, Dot again. That's decent. Still tanking it. So we might lose Aceta or Zhao, but I feel like that should be okay. And of course that would happen. So like you saw there, if Michael didn't target that column on turn 2, we would have had that win. But there's really like nothing else you can try. I suppose you could try using a shield on Michael to let him last longer. I tried that at first, but it didn't work out that well because he wasn't dealing enough damage, and so he would just get like completely smacked around. And I think we're dead here because it's not looking good. Maybe. I don't mind losing Zhao, but yeah, I don't want to risk this because if Mike dies, then we all die, and I don't have Phoenix to retry. All right, I'm gonna try this one last time with Aceta. If it doesn't work out, I'm gonna switch off to DQK and then show you guys how it should have been, even though it doesn't occur this way. It's just extremely rare for it to happen, but it does happen. That's just what I want to make it point clear. If you try enough times, it will happen. It's just that you will have to try a lot of times in order for it to happen. So if Mike can clear this, actually it's looking not too bad, maybe. I don't know. Hopefully. Poison Dot, okay. If Mike tank. Okay, they all tanked it. That's good. Okay. Looking pretty good, actually. If we can tank this last one, if he hits poison. Okay, so he doesn't hit poison, but if Mike hits the boss, then we're good. Okay, so the entire team died, but the point is you beat 8-10, and so you pretty much get to Immortal round. Immortal, I think I'm just gonna cover Immortal in a different video because honestly, like floor 8 in itself, like 8-10 and 8-6 specifically, are just enough of a pain that I'm probably just gonna do Immortal in a different video, because Immortal has a completely different strategy to it. And honestly, I haven't analyzed Immortal's attack pattern, because getting to 8-10 like on certain weeks is just frustrating, like this week, you know. But yeah, ideally I would have liked to use DQK in that. I still wouldn't have used Remi because, like I mentioned, the Fury issues and the proccing of initiatives, it messes that up a little bit. But yeah, that's pretty much how I would go through floor 8. Is DQK mandatory for it? No. Is Remi mandatory for it? No. But you will not have a fun time with it. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I don't have much else to offer about that. And yeah, so hope you guys enjoy, and peace.